From dog tags to ownership, heroes take the lead. Stories of veterans building dreams with passion, drive, and speed. From service to success, we're here to inspire the quest. Dog tags to ownership, we're the best. Take the prize.
From the battlefield to the boardroom, this is Dog Tags to Ownership, the podcast where veterans share their journeys from serving our nation to leading in business. Hear inspiring stories of grit, growth, and the entrepreneurial spirit that drives those who've served to succeed. Tune in and take the first step toward your own mission in entrepreneurship.
Military One Percenters, welcome to Dog Tags to Ownership, where once a week we interview veterans who chart a path towards entrepreneurship. Here, our goals are to share resources, advice, and success stories about starting a business, discuss strategies for building financial independence and creating your own path, and most importantly, build a community to support each other through the challenges of transitioning from service life to civilian ownership. April, another month in the books. But April wasn't just another month. It was proof that when this community locks in on purpose, things start to move fast. From building businesses to building platforms to building movements. And that's what turning your dog tags into ownership is all about. Matt, I think when we look at the month of April and what we learned from the month of April, it is about momentum. Not just talking about it, but seeing what happens in real time through our guests, our community, and even what we're building behind the scenes. So we had 3 very impactful episodes in the month of April. 2 Marines and an Army guy, sitting on a bench somewhere. We had Mike Gnoffo of X-Ray on episode 14, and we had Lee Ettinger of Power Plus Pain Aid on episode 15, and we had Scott Kelly, the real Scott Kelly, on episode 16 of At the Water's Edge and Gray Zone Advisors. But all 3 really came in and talked about that momentum, taking what they had and pushing forward to build something impactful. Matt, I will, turn it over to you to start with episode 14 with Mike.
I would love to. And that's Mike Gnoffo with X-Ray, and it's EXRAY, Echo, X-Ray, Romeo, Oscar, Yankee, for those listening. I don't know that we spelled it out phonetically on the episode, but so folks don't get confused with his actual website. Yeah, so March was the theme there was hardships and overcoming setbacks, and April being a theme of momentum. And Mike absolutely exemplifies. We've been trying to get him on the podcast for over a year now. We talked on the session with him. He was the one that put together our apparel, Dog Tags to Ownership apparel, early on, and through him building his business, growing his business, and our lives remaining busy, it was tough to get him pinned down. So we finally did that. He's been an incredible contributor to our Dog Tags Connect sessions each month. So knowledgeable, especially on, I would say, like the IT side. And I know he had a communications background, but he's always valuable in kind of talking web design and what I would describe as the IT side. Probably the area that you and I are most uncomfortable with as former military police officers. But Mike talked about mastery. So he was in the civilian apparel business for much of his civilian career, and turning mastery into passion is what he sort of talked about there. So he knew what he needed to do from a professional standpoint, from the mastery of that business, to branch out and build his own. He was not uncommon to setback, and losing his job is what really catapulted him into reaching out to a close friend who's become his business partner. It was a fun story when he was kind of talking about, I was let go of my job. Should I go down and give my wife bad news that I was basically just fired? Or should I tell her I have a plan? And taking that moment, reaching out to, a close friend and kind of gathering himself to say, I've got a plan, and my plan is doing what I've been excellent at doing for the last 3 years. He talks in depth about where he started with building that business, which was mainly through word of mouth, through units, creating unit t-shirts and that sort of thing. And where he has taken that, which is essentially a retail clothing line. Think Lululemon, some of those other activewear lines. That's where he wants to be in the next year, 2 years, 5, 10, and beyond. He also talked a bit about the challenges of scaling, going from a two-person operation to about 8 now with some artists. And he talked again about setbacks, failing to launch initially in the retail space and how they had to kind of circle back, do an azimuth check and relaunch. So, and then most recently sponsored the Best Ranger competition, which was a monumental achievement for his company to get that sort of exposure. So hopefully that has opened doors already for him. And I think the future is absolutely bright. So Mike at EXRAY.
Yeah, and you brought it up, Matt, being a day one sponsor at the Best Ranger competition and how he said now he knows why people don't sign up to be a day one sponsor because you have to have the product there on time and right to be that day one sponsor for all 61 teams. His team was able to do that flawlessly. I was following along on social media as the Best Ranger competition was going out, and seeing the shirts and the apparel that they provided was amazing. And I think that's the biggest thing about X-Ray and his background in the custom apparel space. He's not just creating a apparel company, he's solving problems for military and first responder community through his apparel company, because they've put their apparel through the gamut of tests with military members, with first responders, to ensure that their apparel lives up to the standard of what we all need. So just another person who is all about building something within our community, and that community that we serve. And he's just continuing to do that. And I know as we talk to him and we see as he continues to grow, that company is just going to continue to get bigger and better in what they're doing. And like you said, take on the Lululemons in that industry. And one thing that he has is it's made in the USA and it's made by a veteran owned company. So just kudos to Mike and what he's doing and continuing to do. And to Matt's point, go to X-Ray if you are looking for custom apparel for your unit. They do from fire team all the way up to division, podcasts, first responders, whatever it may be. Send them an email and they will get you a design and get you a store and a storefront and get you going with that. Just another great organization and what they're doing to support the communities. That brings us to episode 15, Lee Ettinger with Power Plus Pain Aid. And I think for Lee, the big theme that I saw with him, not only just momentum, but the purpose doesn't end with the uniform. Lee really was vulnerable on our podcast and talked a lot about the hardships and him not realizing what those hardships were. But I think the funniest part to me about Lee, as I was going back and listening and editing that episode, was he didn't want to be an entrepreneur at all. But yet he's been an entrepreneur times like 4 at this point. And then so much so, like, he created a product that really helps, I guess, us old folk, I guess we can call ourselves that now, to be able to have caffeine, but also help with some of the pain as we're going in and working out. So, Matt, I guess I can turn it over to you for your overall takeaways and thoughts on Lee.
Yeah, I mean, Lee's a high energy individual. Had a lot of fun with him on the podcast and his journey from spending about 4 years and then 4 years in active reserve in the Marine Corps. And I mean, you talk about some job hopping, some career hopping, teaching English in Japan, doing web design in the early to mid 90s, selling independent films. Like his background was a bit all over the place, but he found success in each one of those areas, and each one of those sort of acted as a springboard or a stepping stone to kind of push him forward. Some of the things I kind of jotted down from the podcast and kind of re-listening to it. One of the messages he talked about was when he got out, and I think this is very common for a lot of veterans, that he desired structure and that he didn't trust himself or believe that he could maybe be successful, being an entrepreneur. So he kind of wanted that 9 to 5 structure. He talked about not, I don't want to be the smartest guy in the room, meaning I don't want to be in charge necessarily as an entrepreneur because I didn't think I was that smart, is kind of what he said. But he continued to find himself, like you said, Julie, in that role. And then he talked about why he thought he was successful in doing that and why he thinks any veteran can be successful in doing that. He kind of talked about it a couple times, but discipline, hard work, and that you can succeed. That's what veterans are sort of expected to do. That's what they've been known to do. That's what they've been charged to do when they were wearing the uniform. And so we've talked about it before, that never give up attitude, like can't fail attitude, makes veterans such good business owners, because we don't want to fail and we can't fail. And I think that's the approach we take. I jotted down a lot over that episode with him. One of the things as we got into talking about his latest product was with the Power Plus Pain Aid, is that it was 4 years in development. So if you're thinking about getting into some type of supplement, energy, pre-workout, whatever that happens to be, he does the homework. He does the research. He's not paying someone to do that. He bootstrapped the business, made himself smarter than a lot of people and it took 4 years, and it took longer than he wanted, but it just demonstrates again, the discipline, hard work, and the willingness to put everything aside to succeed at something. Check out his product. Very cool stuff. Again, such a pleasure to have on.
One thing that we didn't get into about Lee is that he's been on TV shows. He was on some reality show from up in Alaska, and we didn't really even get into that. But it goes back to what you said, Matt. Like, he is the jack of all trades, I guess. He has done so many things that we didn't even have time to talk about all the things that he's done. But it also goes into what you said, like him putting his effort, discipline, purpose into everything that he does. And that really goes to showing, like, turning that passion into a mission-driven business. And that's what he's done to continue to serve others. And that's why really when we look at Power Pain Plus Aid and what he founded there, it was to serve the community that he knew probably needed something to help with that. So Lee, like you said, energetic guy. We laughed so much on that podcast. And kudos to Lee. So then that brings us to episode 16 with Scott Kelly, the real Scott Kelly. So I think the biggest thing from Scott, and the thing that I take not only momentum as our theme for the month of April, but for him, is use your platform to create impact. Became known because a viral moment that he wasn't even part of, that somebody just took a video of somebody else's phone and it was his resume, and then that gained traction, and then he went on national outlets, national exposure, to include the Jimmy Fallon Show, got to meet the Jonas Brothers, but used that platform to really talk about veterans and the veteran community and supporting the veteran community. We talk about it a lot on here, but using your platform to create that impact to help others. And that's what we are doing with Dog Tax Ownership, is creating a platform to help others as they transition and as they want to turn their dog tags into ownership. And that episode was all about impact, not being afraid to speak up when you have a microphone in front of you, and taking that and utilizing your story to open doors, not just for you, but for the others that are coming behind you. And, you know, the one thing he really talked about, and what I really enjoyed about having him on, was him talking about transition. He really honed in on transition, and his biggest piece of advice that I took was cold call 1,000 people a day, he said, to just get advice, mentors, and to help you build what you want to do. And he's 100% spot on and right. Is using that and just reaching out to people, because everybody in our community does want to help. You just got to reach out for them to know that you need help. And I know that's a hard thing for us military members, veterans, and military connected, is asking for help. But we all, want to give back, and we all want to help. So I'll turn it over to you, Matt, for your thoughts on the real Scott Kelly.
Yeah, loved having Scott on. It was the closest perhaps we've come to meeting a celebrity or someone that had 15 minutes of fame on Jimmy Fallon. And I'll note it, for the folks that haven't seen the video, go there or Google Scott Kelly, Jimmy Fallon. He talks about not knowing who the Jonas Brothers were on stage with the Jonas Brothers. It's pretty funny. Scott absolutely exemplifies the theme this month of momentum. He went from creating a blog at the Water's Edge, spinning that into a podcast, which is still going, and then turning that very much into a profitable business with Gray Zone Advisory. So it is geopolitics is his forte, and being able to assist and assess businesses and exposure with different things going on through a geopolitical lens. Again, as I mentioned on the podcast, not an area that I'm super comfortable speaking in, but he is extremely knowledgeable. It's something he did in uniform and again, took that into the civilian sector and having just a ton of success there. Also, a very fun, I mean, I laughed a lot during that episode with him moving up to the northern New York, upstate New York region. Didn't sound like that was necessarily his top geographic location, but family is there, family's everything, and that's why they live where they live. But he's able to, do what he does fully remote and again, build, create, and as you said, Julie, use the 15 minutes of fame that he had to really focus on the veteran community, not himself, but the veteran community and making a difference.
Yeah. And I think just to finalize on him is taking that time to speak about the veteran community, using that impact, but then not only, he said he had thousands of people reach out to him like, hey, how can I help you? And he was like, what do I ask? And he was like, this is what I'm doing. This is what I want to do, and continue to want to have that impact on the veteran community. So kudos to Scott and what he's doing and how he took that time to really, I guess, bring up the veteran community and then just have that momentum as we wrap up those 3 episodes, have that momentum to carry that forward for what he's doing now. We took that momentum for the month of April. Not only do we have 3 fantastic episodes, but I was also able to go and attend the Military Creator Con, which is a conference dedicated to military creators. And creators can be those social media influencers, can be those who have businesses, entrepreneurship, authors, who is ever really in that creator space. They bring them all together. And it was an amazing event. It was action packed. I swear, I don't think that they planned for sleep during those 3 days because there was very little of that because of how much they had packed into that 2.5 days. But I would just say, the big thing I took from it was community is the new mission. And that's what Military Creator Con was really trying to get after. And I was honored to be able to go down there and speak at the conference and provide a snippet of transition, what transition is, and then why, as you're transitioning out of the military, you should get into entrepreneurship and business ownership as a veteran. Because I do think that we as veterans, military members, military connected, we all serve the military for something bigger than ourselves, and that doesn't go away when we take the uniform off. That need to want to serve a community, that need to want to serve something bigger than us is still instinctually there for us. And that's why I think as we look at America and the way America is going, there's no better organization to help build back neighborhoods and community than the veteran community, because that's what we've always done. And we can do that through veteran-owned businesses because of the impact that we're able to have with that. Great opportunity. Really want to thank Mar-a-Lago and James for allowing me to come down there and be a part of that amazing event. And we can't wait to go back next year for Military Creator Con 2027. And I know it's just going to continue to get bigger and better for everyone there. And then I think the next thing we want to go into is teasing what we have coming out next. So we are launching on 1 July Forces Brands USA, and that is what is next for our community. As I spoke about down at Military Creator Con, transition and getting into entrepreneurship for veterans, that is something, this website, this is something that we believe is really going to be impactful for not only the veteran community, but for the rest of America, to see what veteran-owned businesses are out there, what we're providing to the country, and what the products are that we have, and how we are giving back in different ways than just service to our country. So if you're thinking we're slowing down, we're not. Dog Tags Ownership is only getting started in what we're doing. And so behind the scenes, we're building something even bigger and better. And that's going to be Forces Brands USA. And it's a platform that's designed to connect, elevate, and amplify veteran and military connected businesses all in one shop. So we're super pumped to be launching that on 1 July. And if that's something you're interested in being a part of, reach out to us. We would love to bring your business onto our website as we get ready to launch that. And then I think the last thing to close us out for the month of April is Dog Tags Connect. Our next Dog Tags Connect is going to be on Thursday, 30 April at 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll start putting out the link for that event. But again, another opportunity, no slides, no agenda, just honest feedback conversation on business ownership and building businesses, and how, you can do that, or what you need to be able to do that. That's what we have coming up. Just so you know, there's so much more to come. But just know that we're building this for our community, to continue to empower those who have served, to, you know, turn their dog tags into ownership. So, Matt, I'll turn it over to you for anything on those 3 things that I just discussed.
I'll go back to our theme of April and the momentum. And kudos to you for taking the time to go down to Texas. I know you don't have much on your plate right now with battalion command and, raising family and, starting 3 other businesses, but going down there and making connections. We talk about network is your net worth, but more importantly, building connections and building momentum through those connections. And sometimes it's hard to, I think, tangibly measure success that's happening when you connect, one person to another and they perhaps connect someone else to another, but creating this web of veterans and veterans that are having great success and then sharing that success with others. So again, kudos for taking the time to go down there. Forces Brands, the Amazon marketplace for veteran-owned businesses. That'll be my tagline, as much as I can say that without Amazon suing us. But that's where Forces Brand is going. And then lastly, I'll just say thanks to those that are still listening to the Dog Tags Ownership podcasts that continue to tune in week in, week out. As Julie said, things are only going to get bigger and better. The quality of the guests that we have, I think, is unmatched compared to other podcasts like this that are out there. So can't wait for the Dog Tags Connect next week on having another fruitful conversation with the folks that tune into that. That's all I got.
If April showed us one thing, this community isn't waiting for opportunities anymore. We're creating it. So whether you're just starting out or already building, keep going, keep learning, keep connecting, because this is how we turn our dog tags into ownership. And that's what April taught us, is taking that momentum and keep pushing. Military 1%ers, whether you're brainstorming your first business idea, already running a company, or just curious about where to start, Dog Tags Ownership is the place for you. Please hit that subscribe button to receive all new episodes. Also, if you know someone who has turned their dog tags into ownership, drop us a DM on social media or tag someone. We are always looking for new guests to bring on some of the podcasts. And as always, Military 1%ers, thank you for your service. Let's continue this journey and working together to write our next chapter. Until next week, keep pushing to turn those dog tags into ownership.
From dog tags to ownership, heroes take the lead. Stories of veterans building dreams with passion, drive, and speed. From service to success, we're here to inspire the quest. Dog tags to ownership, we're the best. Take the prize.